Am I the a-hole for refusing to make my sister-in-law's wedding cake for free? I, 29 female, run a bakery business that I've built from the ground up during the past 5 years. It started out as a hobby during college, but now it's a registered business with steady clients, a dedicated workspace, and consistent orders during every month. I do mainly for weddings, birthdays, and other events. I take a lot of pride in what I do. It's not just baking for fun anymore. It's my livelihood. My sister-in-law, 33 female, is getting married at the beginning of June. She's my wife's older sister. We're on friendly terms, but she's always had this vibe like she doesn't really take what I do serious. She's made comments like, "It must be nice getting to play in the kitchen all day," or "You're lucky that people will pay for something they could probably learn on YouTube." That's an unbelievably rude thing to say. Always says it with a smile like it's a joke, but not really. I've brushed these sorts of comments off in the past since they weren't happening all the time, and I didn't want to stir up any drama. Earlier this month, she asked if I'd make her wedding cake. I said sure, and I asked her what she had in mind. She sent me inspiration pictures of a 4-tier cake that had smooth buttercream, floral piping, and real flowers on top and cascading down one side. She wanted it to be a chocolate sponge cake with raspberry filling in terms of taste. Plus, she wanted for me to deliver it to the venue myself on the morning of the wedding, rather than picking it up the day before herself. After we got done discussing everything, I gave her a quote over the phone with a generous family discount, and sister-in-law replied almost instantly that she didn't think that I'd be charging her, and the cake would essentially be a wedding gift. Hey, if you want the cake for free, why don't you watch a YouTube tutorial? You're so not the a-hole here, OP. I told her that I don't typically do wedding cakes as gifts because of how much time and work they take, but I'd be happy to buy her something from her registry instead, or still make the cake at the discounted price if she wanted. And she wasn't happy, said that I was being transactional, and that it was just a cake, and that I clearly didn't want to be a part of her special day, before hanging up on me. Oh, the audacity. To be clear, I have made cakes for free before, but those were small, simple ones for people that I care about, or for friends who are going through a rough time. Yeah, not for people that have been repeatedly rude to you. This isn't that my sister-in-law and her fiance can pay for the cake, and it's not like she's exactly respected my work in the past. I'm assuming that meant it's not like my sister-in-law and her fiance can't pay for the cake. I think so anyway. Meanwhile, sister-in-law's been telling anyone who's gonna listen that I'm making her big day about myself and trying to profit off her happiness. Seriously. My mother-in-law called me and she didn't really ask how I felt or try to understand where I was coming from. She just seemed overwhelmed and kind of desperate to stop this from turning into a bigger family fight. She kept on going on about how stressed my sister-in-law was and how she was being a bit much, but basically begged me to reconsider. I definitely would not if I were you. My wife is completely on my side and has told her mum to stop trying to smooth things over at my expense, but even she admitted that she sort of wishes that I just say yes to avoid the fallout. Yeah, like the top comment says, I'm impressed that you didn't send her a YouTube link so she could learn how to do it herself. Not the a-hole. Yeah, do that, OP. That would be so funny. Like the fact that she said, oh, you're lucky that people pay for this, when they could probably learn how to do it on YouTube. That is the most unnecessary a-holey thing to say. Yeah, like this comment says, no, tell her to go play in the kitchen and watch on YouTube, since that's what she says that you do. Yeah, she's entitled and she's having a tantrum. No, you should not just keep the peace here. Keep on standing up for yourself, OP. This comment says, at this point, do not do the cake even if she does offer to pay. She's trouble, not the a-hole. Ignore her and anybody else who wants to discuss it. Good luck. Also, it's your wife's problem to deal with. And the comment below that says, right? She'd be the kind of person to complain and find something wrong with it. Oh yeah, definitely. So annoying. The comment above that says, not the a-hole, your sister-in-law is being an entitled cheapskate. If you wouldn't normally gift her something as expensive as a cake, then don't gift her the cake. Tell her to get quotes elsewhere. Yeah, and the fact that the mother-in-law called OP, and the fact that like everybody around OP is being like, oh, just do what they say. I know they're super annoying, but just do what they say anyway. Like, no. The second top comment says, not the a-hole. People have no idea how much time and effort and talent goes into stuff like this. She devalues your work. Stick to your guns. Let her say whatever she wants to. The people who agree with her are uninformed, but most people are going to see that she's being ridiculous, especially if you let them know how much money and time the cake she's asking for would take. If the other guests aren't at least paying that much money on the bride's wedding gift and spending at least that much time on the bride's wedding gift, then they don't have a leg to stand on. Good luck. Yeah, pretty much everything that we've learnt from this post is that the sister-in-law is entitled, they're also rude, they also can't handle it when they don't get their own way, and basically they're having an entitled tantrum because they're not getting what they want. Yeah, go watch a YouTube tutorial and do it yourself. gonna be a fun episode today. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stories to read today. 7 fun but also concerning stories to read. Subscribe if you want to, and I hope you have a great time, guys. Am I the a-hole for buying my kid a quote-unquote playground after denying the neighbor kids a place to play? This seems so ridiculous to me, and I'm pretty confident that I'm in the right here, but here goes. For the last year, my neighbor's kids have been running amok on my driveway. At first, I was empathetic as they don't have much of a yard, and we don't live on a cul-de-sac. They do have their own driveway though. Over the last year, I've nicely requested that they stop doing something when it threatened my home or my car. For example, throwing balls or a frisbee and repeatedly hitting my windows. When things like that would happen, I'd go outside calmly and I'd ask them to play not directly in front of my house or on my driveway. But they became increasingly more confident and reckless, breaking large rocks on my driveway with a hammer and then throwing the chunks at my walls. So finally, I called the cops and I had them trespassed because the parents knew about it, but they didn't care as long as their kids are outside and not bugging them. It's also coincided with my daughter's mobility reaching the point where she wants to climb and play outside, and the weather's nice, so I want to put up a swing set and a slide or playhouse for her in the backyard. I babysit, so I'm getting one that can support 2 or 3 little kids' weight. A friend of mine told me that I was an a-hole because I'd eliminated their space to play, and now I was going to flaunt my wealth by putting up a playground in my backyard that they would get to stare at from their house windows. And the worst part is I probably would have let the neighbor kids come over and use it if they hadn't have been such turds this year. The top comment, your friend's an idiot, not the a-hole. The comment below that says, what? Your friend's ridiculous. You don't owe your private yard to anybody. Yeah, what's the friend talking about? These kids are breaking rocks on your driveway with a hammer and then throwing them at your walls. You don't owe anything to these people. Oh, that's so aggravating. And you'd be flaunting your wealth because you want to put a swing set and a slide in the backyard? Like, I'm burning so many calories right now trying to figure out what they're talking about. How does that make any sense? This comment says, your friend's an idiot. Your neighbor's kids are delinquents and your neighbors are a-holes. You're entitled to do whatever you want in either your driveway or your backyard. Not the a-hole. Yeah, they're throwing rocks at OP's walls. You don't owe them anything. Yeah, very much a not the a-hole consensus. The next one says, am I the a-hole for telling my wife not to come to the funeral of my ex-wife to support my daughter because my daughter doesn't want her there? My ex-wife died a couple of days ago. We shared a daughter, 14, together. Our divorce was not on the best of terms. We were both at fault. Nobody cheated, but we weren't the best spouses to each other. For a long time, we both tried to put our daughter first, but after I remarried, things did change. My ex alienated our daughter against my wife. I did what I could to stop it, and I made sure I tried to counteract what my ex was doing. I did fight my ex in court over it, but my ex did successfully alienate our daughter against my wife, and that was 4 years ago. My wife was pregnant at the time, so it was stressful when we realized what was happening. So my wife and daughter don't have a close or healthy relationship. My daughter shuts my wife out because of what her mum has said. She has at times been rude to my wife, and I've stepped in to tell her that she can't be like that. I told her that I can't make her like or love or be close to my wife, but she must be respectful. The rudeness was never a big problem, but the rejection of a relationship, that's remained consistent. Now my ex-wife is dead and my daughter's grieving. My daughter has stated clearly that she does not want my wife or my daughter 3.5 there. My wife does want to go to the funeral. She said that my daughter will always remember her not being there for her and keeping her brother away from supporting her if we listen. She said that at the very least she must be there, that maybe our son's too young, but as her stepmom, if she doesn't show up and show that she loves her, things will never get better. My daughter screamed at the top of her lungs yesterday because she heard my wife say that she wants to come and support my daughter. My daughter stated it very aggressively and in a state of raw grief that my wife will not be a comfort because she hated her mum and nobody wants her there. So I told my wife not to come. I said I'll be there, and I know that my daughter has mixed feelings about me being there, but she ultimately does want me there. My wife expressed that she worried that it was risky and that my daughter would remember it as her not being supportive later, and I said potentially it could, but it might also show my daughter that she's willing to respect her boundaries, that she's not trying to take her mum's place. I told my wife it will be more difficult now because my daughter's mum's dead, and it can be hard to see the flaws in people's actions when we lose them too soon, and I do feel deep down that if she shows up, my daughter will turn against her more. My daughter sought the advice of the family therapist that we've visited over the years, and the therapist agreed with me, but my wife was upset. She told me that she wanted my support, and that she felt like I was encouraging her to not be a good stepmom. Am I the a-hole? I feel like your wife does need to respect your daughter's boundaries. Yeah, the top comment, not the a-hole. Your daughter made her choice clear. You and your wife need to respect that. If the therapist supports that, then there's nothing further to discuss. Edit, I say this as a stepmom whose stepson's biological mum passed away. Yeah, if your wife wife goes against what your daughter is wanting here, OP, yeah, that could definitely make things even more strained. And your wife being a good stepmom here is respecting what your daughter is saying. The second top comment says, not the a-hole, your daughter is grieving and unfortunately your wife being there won't help her in that. Yeah, she can be a good stepmom by respecting her stepdaughter in this time. Forcing her presence at such an emotionally charged time, that's only going to drive the wedge that exists even further in. If your wife can step back for a bit, your daughter might be able to gradually build a respectful relationship with her. Yeah, definitely. It'll only make it worse if she goes against what the daughter's saying. Yeah, like this comment says, not the a-hole, your daughter has clearly stated that she doesn't want your wife there. Funny that your wife is trying to downplay the fact that your daughter will always remember that your wife didn't respect what she wanted at her mother's funeral. Her insistence is the exact opposite of being a good stepmom. It's pushing her own agenda onto your daughter. Yeah, 100% she can be a good stepmom by respecting what the daughter is saying. Yeah, by the sounds of it, the wife is only really thinking about herself. Like she feels like it's the right thing to do. But hey, the daughter's grieving. The daughter has said no. They've said they don't want you there. OP's wife really needs to respect that. The next one says, am I the a-hole for refusing to cancel my birthday trip because my boyfriend's mum planned a family dinner the same day? I, 20 female, planned a weekend getaway with 2 close friends for my birthday. I've had a rough year, and this trip was something that I really look forward to. It's nothing wild, just a cabin, some wine, and hiking. I booked it over a month ago, and I told my boyfriend, 23 male, right away. He said it sounded fun and was happy for me. A few days ago, his mum decided to host a family dinner on the same weekend. She didn't ask about our plans, just texted the whole family like, dinner at our place Saturday night. Everyone expected. My boyfriend asked me if I could cancel the trip or at least come back early so I could attend. I told him no, it's my birthday. I made the plans first, and I wasn't going to cut it short for something that his mum planned last minute. He got really quiet and said that I was being disrespectful to his family and choosing friends over people who really care. What? Now he's distant and his sister texted me something like, it's not that hard to show up for family. I don't hate his family at all, but that felt unfair. Am I the a-hole for sticking to my birthday plans? You're disrespecting the family? No, you're not. And he got his sister to message you? The top comment says, absolutely not the a-hole. You planned this trip well in advance, and it's your birthday. A celebration that you deserve, especially after a tough year. His mum's last minute dinner doesn't automatically override your existing plans, and it's so unfair for them to frame it as some sort of loyalty test. The real issue here is the lack of respect for your time and the guilt tripping. Yeah, your boyfriend had no problem with the trip when you first told him, but suddenly you're disrespectful for not dropping everything? That's a double standard. If family time was so non-negotiable, he could have told his mum, hey, OP already has birthday plans that weekend. Can we adjust? Instead, he's making you the villain for what? Sticking to commitments? Stand your ground, OP. Healthy relationships don't demand you cancel meaningful plans just to cater to somebody else's poor scheduling. And if the family really cares, they'd understand that birthdays and boundaries matter too. Enjoy your trip guilt-free. And OP said, wow, thank you for this. You put into words exactly what I've been feeling, but I couldn't explain. It really did feel like a loyalty test. And the fact that he flipped after being totally fine with it confuses me even more. I really appreciate you validating that boundaries matter. Yeah, the audacity of the boyfriend. This comment says, not the a-hole, it's a power play. Your boyfriend and his mum want to ensure that you're easy to manipulate and you're a pushover who would throw away meaningful plans just for a run-of-the-mill dinner because they asked. Yeah, and the response to that, just because they asked, mum didn't even ask. She said everyone expected. And apparently her adult children think that means that OP should just drop her plans because mum says so? No, not the a-hole. Yeah, and it really pisses me off how they got the sister to message OP too. And yeah, it's a random dinner. OP had this planned well in advance. It's also a celebration for your birthday. But what, you're being disrespectful because you don't drop your plans for a random dinner? They didn't even bother to ask if OP was available. They were like, this is when the dinner is, everybody's expected. Yeah, that's not really how that works. Like, what do you mean? If you won't even be asking people if they're available, then you better expect that some of them aren't going to be available. That is so annoying. There are so many red flags here. Yeah, like this comment says, not the a-hole, you're an adult and she's not even your mum. She doesn't get any say in your schedule. Yeah, and you're going away with your friends to celebrate your birthday and they're having a random dinner that they didn't even bother to ask anybody if they're available. Yeah, and like this comment says, plus the fact that he's talking to his sister about your relationship to the point where she feels comfortable inserting herself, big red flag. Yeah, getting his family members to message his girlfriend to try to guilt trip his girlfriend. This comment says, OP's choice right now sets the standard for boundaries from here on out. If OP asserts herself now, she'll let them know that she's in charge of herself. OP, stay on your trip. If you give in now, it'll never end. Yeah, do you want this to be your relationship, OP? And the boyfriend's sister messaging OP and saying it's not that hard to show up for family? Like what? Go away. I'd run in the opposite direction of your boyfriend. All of this is really gross behavior. Your boyfriend should have been standing up for you, OP, and he wasn't. Instead, he was trying really hard to guilt trip you and also get his sister to guilt trip you. Yeah, that's terrible. Old man Jin's awake from his nap. He is so beautiful. Okay, the next one says, am I the gay hoe for telling my boyfriend's family that I bought our house, not him? This is a throwaway account. This whole thing started last month or so. Me, 27 female, and my boyfriend, 26 male, who I'll call Matt for privacy's sake, have been together for 6 years now. I'm the main breadwinner, and that's always been a struggle in our relationship. I would say that he is pretty insecure about earning less than me. About a year ago, I'd finally saved up enough to purchase a house in the neighborhood that I really like. Up until then, me and Matt had been living in his apartment, which is cramped and not located in a nice spot. Matt has never been too bothered about moving. He likes living in his apartment and he doesn't mind living elsewhere, as long as he doesn't have to pay more than half. Knowing damn well that I could easily purchase the whole house, and it was a bargain for the area, I bit the bullet and I bought it from all of my savings. When we moved in, Matt loved the place, and I thought everything was fine. Now, this is the reason that I'm posting on Reddit. 2 days ago, me and Matt were over at his mum's place for dinner. Conversation was going fine until the topic of our house came up. Mother-in-law mentioned how proud she was of Matt for owning his own house at 26, which I was confused about, but I obviously didn't want to start anything at the dinner table. Then Matt's sister chimed in about how much of an achievement it was. Matt looked over at me, not saying anything. I'm not usually a petty or confrontational person, but something about the fact that I was the one who not only bought the house, but also paid majority of the bills, and Matt didn't even drop $1. Yeah, that stuck with me. Understandable, OP. So I decided to say something. I asked Matt who really bought the house in front of everybody. I know it was a move, but honestly, I was so rolled up at that stage. Matt said nothing, and then I announced to everybody that Matt didn't even contribute to buying the house. Immediately after saying that, I packed up my stuff and I went home. I've been texting with Matt's sister that I'll call Kate, who seems to be on my side. Matt's staying with his mum right now, so I have the house all to myself. He hasn't contacted me yet, and I don't know whether it's worth breaking up over a lie like this. Am I the a-hole? No, you are so not the a-hole, and has he apologized? Okay, so there is an update. Hi Reddit, I'm back. Last night I posted on Am I the a-hole and it kind of blew up. I don't know Reddit standards, but I think 400,000 views is a lot. So some stuff happened today. Matt, fake name for my boyfriend, came back to the house. I was assuming that he was coming back to get his stuff and leave, but I was unfortunately very wrong. He literally told me that he could forgive me and that he was moving back in. Oh my god, no. Oh, this guy is unbelievable. You'll forgive OP? Dump him this second. He literally told me he could forgive me and that he was moving back in, as if that was a good thing. I was so shocked, but he was dead ass. So as any sane person would do, I grabbed all of his remaining stuff, gave it to him, and I told him to get the f out. Good job, OP. He got really mad at that and I was worried that he'd get aggressive, so I called Kate for backup. She was really helpful and drove Matt home. As soon as I can, I'm changing locks, and as for some comments, I paid the mortgage, and I don't even think Matt even knows what a mortgage is. I live in Canada, so I'm not even sure if I have legal rights to kick him out. He has stayed with me for over a year. I am trying to seek some lawyer advice. Thank you for all of your help, and I'll try to update if I can. I'll forgive you. Bro, what? I cannot believe the audacity of this guy. First of all, the audacity of him to lie about this and to pretend that he bought the house so that he could feel better about himself and not be proud of you, his partner, and not be like, hey family, my partner bought a house and I'm so proud of them. No, he lied to try to take the credit to make himself feel better about himself. Not only that, but then he doesn't apologize. No, he stays with his mum and then goes to OP and is like, I can forgive you. I haven't read something that frustrating in a while. Who does he think he is? I can forgive you. Bro, you are in the wrong. 100% in the wrong. I'm actually shocked. Let me know what you think of this in the comments, everybody. I haven't been this shocked in a long time. The next one. Am I the gay hoe for sticking to my guns after my mother-in-law of 30 plus years told me that I wasn't in the family? My husband, 55 male, and myself, 54 female, have been married for 32 years and together since I was 19 years old. My husband, Tom, is an amazing man. but an extreme introvert. So I've been the social planner and the greeting card sender and the gift purchaser for both our sides of the family. I couldn't even count the thousands of hours of calls and handmade gifts and holiday meals that I've contributed over the years. I've never had any major problems with the in-laws, but they've never been supportive, even when I was taking care of my terminally ill mother and 2 small children, and then working my way through nursing school. No offers of babysitting or meals, even though they only live 30 minutes away from us. We even took money from our home equity line of credit to keep them from losing their house due to their financial mismanagement. I share this background to show why I was so surprised to find out that my mother-in-law did not consider me in the family, in spite of 30 years of participation and contribution. Tom's uncle Ned died of COVID in 2022. His wife Claire, my mother-in-law's sister, was so devastated and decided that she couldn't deal with a lot of people at his internment. She only wanted Tom and his sister and her own daughter and husband and my mother-in-law and father-in-law to attend, not due to COVID rules, just her preference. No problem. My problem came when my mother-in-law explained that it was nothing personal that I'm not invited. It's just because she only wants family there, and since I'm not family, of course I can't come. Wow, that's terrible. I chalked it up to poor wording, but for the next 4 to 5 phone conversations, she kept on saying nothing personal, it's just for family, multiple times in every conversation. She kept on talking about the lovely luncheon they were going to have after the event that I'm excluded from, which would be so nice for the family to catch up. Tom did tell mother-in-law to not refer to gatherings where I'm not invited as for family only, but mother-in-law talked over him like she always does, and never even registered how insulting it was. How I'm not family after 30 plus years, as well as 2 kids and decades of effort. She wasn't mad or being vindictive, she was calmly stating facts. She was acting like Tom's 20 years old, and I'm the flavour of the month, not his partner of the last 3 decades, who literally saved his life and nursed him through a stroke, again without any help, and all the aftermath. I was so crushed. Inclusion is really important to me, and whenever I host a holiday, I make sure that friends and co-workers have a place to spend holidays, and I invite them to spend it at my house if they don't have any other plans. Shutting someone out is one of the worst things you can do to a human. My solution: if my mother-in-law is going to treat me as my husband's +1, I'm going to start acting like it. I told Tom that all of the cards, gifts and communication with his family are here for his job, and I'll manage the same with my side of the family. I made him a list of all the birthdays, anniversaries that he needs to pay attention to, and I told him that if he wants to have us host something for his family, I'll happily cook a lovely meal, but he's responsible for the invites and negotiating the menu. I then sent a letter to my in-laws to let them know that Tom and I redivided household duties, and he will now be managing all of the above, and that they can contact him and not me regarding social stuff. Tom was not thrilled that he was now responsible for a genre that's difficult for him, but I told him that we could trade duties every 30 years, and that my 30 were up low. We're now 3 years later, and when Tom says something about a holiday for his family, I remind him that it's his arena, and whatever he wants to plan is fine with me. Lately, he's been rolling his eyes and saying, "We're still on this? You're really holding a grudge? Or you really don't want to let this go?" I don't think I'm holding a grudge. This is the most hurtful thing that's ever been put on me, and I can't forget how they view me. I don't hate them or discourage his or my adult kids' involvement with them, but if I'm not in the family, then I'm not going to invest my energy on people who don't want me around. Is Tom right? Is 3 years long enough, and should I let it go? Especially since they are oblivious and they're not going to change their view anyway. Am I the a-hole? Edit, I should point out that my husband does have brain damage from his stroke, so writing things down and reminding him are part of our normal life, and they are needed for him to get through his day okay. He's got a hard time with memory and verbal comprehension, so sometimes it takes him until after a conversation and talking with me to understand what was said. This isn't only dealing with his mum, but for TV and movie plots and other situations, he is able to drive and work part-time and exercise and play tennis, but he does need help with problem solving and memory. Edit number 2, to clarify, my husband's part-time job is executive accounting. He's not incapable of planning a birthday dinner or buying a card. The damage was to his auditory center, so if things are written or visual, he's fine. Just as long as he's not getting info via auditory means and write things down, he understands. The top comment says, "Has there been an apology or any change in their treatment of you? It's not holding a grudge to take people at their word and respond accordingly." And OP said none. My mother-in-law doesn't think it's a problem to point out that I'm not in the family when I clearly, in her mind, don't belong in that category. I guess you have to be born into the family to count, but then the uncle by marriage who died isn't family either. The comment below that says, "Actually, your husband's the a-hole. 3 years ago, he should have written your mother-in-law the riot act and told her under no uncertain terms that you and your children are your family and that you're a second-tier extended family. The person you should be angry at is your husband. Your mother-in-law's horrible, but your husband's worse for not standing up for you. OP said, thank you so much. My husband had a massive stroke 15 years ago and still has some brain damage and short-term memory issues, so sometimes it is hard for me to know how much of a pass to give him. The comment below that says his memory seemed to be good enough to remember that you were holding a grudge, and why. This one says, let it go when mother-in-law apologizes. Let Tom know that that's the deal. He doesn't get to sit back and let his mum insult you and then make it your fault. In fact, he should have stopped it right away. It's all on him, not the a-hole. Yeah, very much in not the a-hole consensus. The last one for today says, am I the a-hole for telling my brother that I'm not going to advocate for his wife to be included more when she's rude to mine? My wife, 32 female, is very close to my 33 male family. We were childhood best friends, high school sweethearts, and we've been together for 18 years. They've known her all that time and my mum adores her and they're incredibly close. Actually, my mum has a good relationship with all but one of her children's partners. My younger brother's Aiden, 29 male, wife, 27 female, is the exception. Aiden married Jem last year. They dated for a couple of years before that. At first, we all got along pretty good with Jem, but she suddenly started being a d- to my wife. It started with subtle comments that my wife said were nothing and that I was overreacting. While others would joke that my wife was my mum's favorite kid, Jem would sound bitter and jealous about it. Then her comments turned mean about it. The jokes about it, which were never very frequent, stopped after that, but Jem would bring it up anyway. Then it was comments about how exhausting it must be for my wife to have so many people who want her time and attention. Those were sparked by my siblings' partners also getting along with my wife, not to mention my mum and wife hanging out, and then my wife and I have kids together. I asked Jem what her problem was. I spoke to Aiden one-on-one as well, and others also spoke up in defense of my wife. Jem's biggest issue has always appeared to be my mum and wife being close. I don't know why it drives her crazy, but it does. Now Aiden's getting frustrated because Jem isn't included the way that my wife and the other partners are. The fact that mum will do days with her daughter-in-law and Jem isn't invited, or that my wife will do girl stuff with the women in our family but she doesn't invite Jem because eventually she got sick of Jem too. She was better than me at brushing it off for a while, but I think anybody would get annoyed by somebody always treating them like crap. So Aiden came to me hoping that I'd advocate for Jem to be included. He said that she feels left out and wants to be included. I told him that she's got a funny way of showing it. He said that she knows that she messed up, but to give her another chance for him. I told him that I'm not going to advocate for his wife's inclusion when she was so rude to my wife. I told him that he needs to get Jem to make it up to everybody and to work towards her inclusion, or else she's staying an outsider. I told him that I understand his loyalty to his wife, but mine's always going to be with my wife. He told me that somebody on our side needs to try, or Jem's going to feel like she's wasting her time. I told him it's not on me. He tried to pull some brotherhood crap, and I told him to knock it off and accept my answer. Obviously, he hates that. My wife said that she'd have no problem if Jem apologized and actually stopped with her comments, and she's glad that I told Aiden what Jem needed to do. Aiden keeps on telling me that I was a dick and I could have done more. Am I the a-hole? No, OP. The top comment says not the a-hole. You're absolutely right. Jem created this situation and it's on her to fix it. Nobody's obligated to include somebody who's been consistently rude, especially when she hasn't even apologized. Your wife gave a fair and a reasonable condition. If Jem truly wants to be included, she should own up to her behavior and make amends. Aiden trying to guilt trip you into advocating for his wife instead of holding her accountable is not fair. Brotherhood does not mean enabling bad behavior, and you're prioritizing your wife as you should. If he wants things to change, he should be having that conversation with Jem, not you. Yeah, definitely a not the a-hole consensus. Okay, time to read something wholesome. The emotional reaction of a cat after seeing its owner for the first time in 6 months. Just a little rub against their leg. That's so funny because it's so accurate. Like they love you so much, but they're a little bit more subtle at showing it. So cute though. Thank you for joining me today, everybody. I hope you had a great time. Another adventure of an episode. The comment of the day goes to Sopa Duma Delicia 5. The way that Jin's looking at you in the thumbnail makes it look like he's asking you to stop reading. Oh yeah, he probably is. Like, be quiet, man. I'm trying to sleep. I'm having a nap over here and you're reading horrifying stuff all the time? Jin is so cute. Thank you for the comment and thank you for the support. And I'll see you legends in the next episode. Make sure you look after yourself and make sure you have a beautiful, amazing rest of your day. And you know what I'm about to say because I say it every other day. Bye!